We've covered the single-season NFL teams who have had the most luck, and we've covered the single-season NFL teams that have had the least luck. Now we're going to look at the 25 NFL teams who had the most neutral luck, with performances that lined up closest to their actual record, otherwise known as the Bill Parcells Zone. After all, it was Coach Parcells who stated that you are what your record says you are. That's an indisputable statement when it comes to the standings, but we've learned that's not always the case in practice. But for these teams, it certainly is. We're going to be ranking these teams by how close their luck score is to 0, whether it's above or below. Does any NFL team have a luck score of exactly 0? Keep on watching to find out. Thank you for joining us today. We are ready to start. With their appearance here at number 25, the Miami Dolphins officially become the first franchise to appear on all 3 lists, and they've done it in a 6-year period with their 2012 squad. Miami didn't have anything special going on here, going 7-9 and being outscored by 29 points. Everything here outside of their scoring defense points to a below average team, and that bears out with their expected win total sitting at 6.971, giving them a luck score of 0.029. Under new head coach Joe Philbin, the Dolphins were looking for their first winning season since their luck-fueled 2008 campaign. After back-to-back overtime losses, a 3-game winning streak offered some hope. But with Miami sitting at 4-3, they lost 3 in a row and never got to 500 again. They had a chance in Week 17, but they were shut out 28-0 in New England. Next up at number 24 are the 1969 St. Louis Cardinals. In the final season before the merger, the Cards found their way to some points, but were third to last in points allowed on their way to a 4-9-1 record. A lower level strength of schedule didn't help matters either, but they got their win total up to 4.5 with that tie, bringing them more in line with their expected win total, giving them a luck score of 0.021. The Cards had shown some life in the early days of the Super Bowl era, including a 9-4-1 record the year before, but in an era of no wild cards, there were no playoffs to be had. They sat at 3-4-1 this season with 6 games to go. Then came 5 losses out of 6, 3 of them by at least 17 points, giving them 7 losses by multiple possessions on the season. We're going to have a few different teams with a tie on this countdown. The 1997 Washington Redskins are one of them at number 23. They got the slimmest winning record possible in a 16-game schedule, going 8-7-1. They were average at scoring and pretty darn good at preventing scoring, but their strength of schedule didn't help out a whole lot. They are slight overachievers here, 8.5 wins over an expected 8.48, for a luck score of 0.02. That tie was pretty memorable though. Washington quarterback Gus Frerotte scored a rushing touchdown, then celebrated by ramming his head into a wall. Hey, doesn't everybody celebrate touchdowns that way? He left the game, and it ended 7-7. Washington was a seesaw all season, never winning or losing more than 2 games in a row, never going above or below 500 by more than 2 games either. That's not a misprint. We jump to number 20 because we have a 3-way tie. We're just going to take them in chronological order. First, we have the 1967 New York Jets from the old AFL days. 8-5-1 says they're a bit above average. A plus 42 point differential does the same, as do the rest of these numbers. So it makes sense that they landed just where they did. But they are the first team we see to slightly underachieve, with their luck score at negative 0.019. It's not that Jets team, it's the one from the season before. No miracle run to the Super Bowl here, mainly because they lost out on the division title to the Houston Oilers. With 9 teams and a 14-game schedule, the Jets had 3 bye weeks. At one point they had more byes than games played. Coming off that 3rd bye in December, they lost 3 in a row, and that was that. Our second team at number 20 are the 1996 Carolina Panthers. Only just their second season of existence, they put up a 12-4 record and won the NFC West. Yes, Carolina was in the West. The only thing holding them back from a numerical standpoint was their strength of schedule. Everything else here is excellent. They added a win in the playoffs for 13 in total and are only the tiniest of overachievers with a luck score of 0.019. That playoff win got them into the NFC Championship game, where they only lost to an all-time great Packers team. With unrestricted free agency still in its infancy, Carolina absolutely took the veteran route to get their team built, and it certainly paid off in the short term. The franchise has been to 2 Super Bowls since, but this season might be the most memorable of them all. Now for the last team sitting at number 20, the 2023 Tennessee Titans. The Jets were above average and the Panthers were excellent. Not so much for these Titans. Their defense tried, but that offense wasn't pulling its weight, leaving them at 6-11. Had their schedule been a little harder, they could have landed on the unlucky side of things, but they perfectly replicate the luck score of the Panthers, sitting at 0.019. 4 years earlier, they were in the AFC Championship game. 2 years earlier, they were the AFC's number 1 seed. This season, well, they were 3-4 at one point, but 2 separate 3-game losing streaks as part of an overall 2-7 run did most of the damage. Then they let Derrick Henry go after the season, and you know, all he's gonna do is make the Hall of Fame one day. This isn't a very good team at number 19, but they were on their way to becoming one. These are the 1980 New York Giants. They went 4-12 while spending a lot of time getting beat up, going 0-9 in multiple possession games. At first glance, those 4 wins do seem like an overachievement, but that's balanced by a difficult strength of schedule. That means the Giants only got slightly lucky this season, with a luck score of 0.018. Okay, Giants fans, be honest. Outside of seasons where you won the Super Bowl, isn't this your favorite Giants season of all time? That 4-12 record got the Giants the second pick in the draft, and because running back value was still a thing during the early 80s, that left them with the one and only Lawrence Taylor. As a 49er fan, still to this very day, there has been no other player I feared more than LT. If Aaron Donald couldn't pass him, no one will. They still looked like the LA Rams, but in 1996 they were indeed the St. Louis Rams, and they take their spot here at number 18. Their profile isn't that far off from the Giants, except not quite as bad. They too have numbers that don't fully line up with that 6-10 record, while finding balance with that strength of schedule. They would have been expected to win just less than the 6 games they did, landing their luck score at 0.016. The Rams from 1995 to 1998 were equivalent to the awkward teen years that most of us faced once upon a time. They weren't absolutely horrible, they weren't anywhere near good, and they were in a new town. They did have a winning record at one point though, starting the season 1-0. Then they were 1-5, then they fired Rich Brooks, then they hired Dick Vermeil. At number 17 are the 1974 Denver Broncos, a team that screams slightly above average. A 7-6-1 record, offensive and defensive numbers that level out to a +8 point differential, a middle-of-the-road schedule, even a C-score in the 1 range. Their expected win total of 7.485 joins the consensus and officially leaves these Broncos as slightly lucky, with their luck score at 0.015. And you'll never believe it, they were 3-2 in their non-tied one-possession games and 4-4 in their multiple possession games. They were also 3-3 within the division, 3-1 at home, and 4-3 on the road. The AFC West would remain the playground of the Oakland Raiders for a couple more seasons, but Denver had started their rise and would be a force very soon. We already made a passing reference to this team earlier. Taking the 16th spot are the 2019 Tennessee Titans. Sitting at 4-5, they went 5-2 down the stretch to save their season and finish at 9-7. That got them the final seed in the AFC playoffs, where they would go on to pull 2 big upsets. That pushed their win total to 11, which is an overachievement by just a hair or two, giving them a luck score of 0.013. That first win at 4-5 came against the Kansas City Chiefs, which incidentally sent them on a winning streak thereafter. Tennessee's playoff win over the Ravens is one of the biggest upsets in playoff history, but their prior victory over the Patriots shouldn't be overlooked either. It only made sense that it was once again the Chiefs and the Titans for the right to go to the Super Bowl. 3 huge upsets looked possible, but it was too much to ask. We now have our second entry from a franchise in its second season of existence. But the 2003 Houston Texans at number 15 are nowhere near where the Carolina Panthers were. They only improved by 1 win to 5-11, but did so against a substantially harder schedule, which actually wound up as the hardest in the league. Unlike the majority of teams we've seen so far, Houston goes into the slightly unlucky category with their luck score at negative 0.012. The best part of Houston's 2003 season was drafting Andre Johnson 3rd overall. He just recently made it into the Hall of Fame, the first player to ever do so while starting his career with the Texans. Otherwise, they went 3-9 after a 2-2 start, with all those wins coming by 4 points or fewer. In fact, all of their wins were by a single possession, to be somewhat expected, as a second-year franchise stuck with the league's hardest schedule. We've got another tie here between 2 teams at number 13. We'll start with the 1983 New Orleans Saints. After a miserable start to life in the NFL, the Saints showed a little something this year by going 8-8, tying for the best mark in their 17-year history to that point. And yeah, average just about sums it up for this squad, with their expected win total sitting at just under 8, giving them a luck score of 0.011. They had their chance for a winning record and a playoff spot though. At 8-7, they allowed a punt return touchdown, 2 pick sixes, and a safety against the Rams. Yet they still led 24-23 in the final seconds. That is until the Rams scored their first points on offense the whole game with a field goal to end the dream. They finally got their first winning season in 1987. The other team at number 13 are the 2012 Buffalo Bills. They didn't have the sordid past that New Orleans did, but they were on a decade-plus streak of missing the playoffs. Going 6-10 this season didn't help that out. Everything here ranks in the 20s. Their point differential matches up pretty well. They were right where they needed to be, joining the 83 Saints with their own luck score of 0.011. The Bills were still giving it a go with Chan Gailey in his 1 winning season as an NFL head coach with 0 playoff wins. They gave up that experiment after the season. They had 2 separate 3-game losing streaks and gave up 50 points to the Seahawks. Even worse, that game was in Canada, so according to the exchange rate as of recording, they really gave up 68 points. Taking the number 12 spot are the 1980 Cincinnati Bengals. In our video of the unluckiest teams in NFL history, we found out that the 1979 Bengals were the unluckiest team in AFC history, so this was a nice regression right back to the mean. Cincy was 6-10 and earned every bit of that record. Their expected win total was too stubborn to hit exactly 6 though, giving them a luck score of 1/100th of a point. The only other time the Bengals had finished second to worst in scoring was back in their expansion season in the AFL from 1968. 9 different times they failed to clear 14 points, yet they won 2 shootouts where they allowed 28 points or more. The offense got a lot more consistent the next season, where they shocked the NFL world and made it to Super Bowl 16. Sitting at the edge of the top 10 is the other team from Ohio, the 2018 Cleveland Browns. After winning one game over the previous 2 seasons combined, they came back with a 7-8-1 mark, their best record in 11 years. They were mostly below average, but they were aided by their usual difficult schedule. We're now treading in the thousandth of a point territory, with Cleveland's luck score ever so slightly underwater at negative 0.008. Searching for only their second win in nearly 33 months, the Browns instead tied the Steelers on opening week. It was a couple of weeks later, on a nationally televised broadcast no less, that they finally notched that win. They never managed a winning record at any point though, hilariously towing the line at 0-0-1, 1-1-1, 2-2-1, and 7-7-1. We enter the top 10, but we do so at number 8 by virtue of another 3-way tie. We start with the 1997 New England Patriots. Coming off a Super Bowl appearance, the Pats went 10-6 while fielding top 10 marks in both points scored and points allowed. They were back in the playoffs and won a game, giving them 11 wins on the season, just short of their expected win total, giving them a luck score of negative 0.007. They did all this with a new head coach. Bill Parcells jumped ship to the New York Jets, and Pete Carroll was brought on board. They started hot, going 4-0, with 3 of those wins coming by at least 25 points each, and the other over Parcells' Jets in overtime. They allowed a total of just 10 points in their 2 playoff games, but still managed to lose one of those games 7-6 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The next team at number 8 are the 2019 Jacksonville Jaguars, the second AFC South team from 2019 to make the list. The Jags weren't as good as the Titans though, going 6-10 and being outscored by nearly 100 points. 2/3 of those wins were by multiple possessions though, so they didn't backdoor their way into that record, which lines up so closely with their expected win total, giving them the mirror image of the 97 Patriots luck score at 0.007. Jacksonville started the season with 2 losses, then 2 wins, then 2 losses again, then 2 wins again, then 2 losses again, before losing another 3 to give them a 5-game losing streak and a 4-9 record. Because of a bye week and a trip to London, they went 35 days, covering the entirety of November without playing a single game on their home field. Our last team at number 8 is also our 3rd team from 2019 and our first Super Bowl champion on the list, the Kansas City Chiefs. They came out of the gate strong, had a little struggle before winning their last 9 games, playoffs included, to notch a total of 15 on the season. Even so, they're the Chiefs, so they had to slightly overachieve, ending things off with a luck score of 0.007. We already mentioned their loss to the Tennessee Titans, which left them at 6-4 following a 4-0 start. A trip to Mexico to play the Chargers and a bye week wound up soothing all their wounds. Famously, they trailed each of their playoff games this season by double digits, including by 24 against the Texans, before coming from behind to win them all by double digits. These numbers are getting tighter and tighter, so we have another tie at number 6. First on the docket are the 1976 Minnesota Vikings. They didn't win the Super Bowl like the Chiefs in our previous entry, but they made it there after an 11-2-1 regular season. Those 2 playoff wins gave them a total of 13.5 when including their tie, which was achingly close to their expected total, giving them a luck score of negative 0.004. Minnesota was coming back with their strongest team by C-score since their 2-year dominance of 1969 and 1970. Looking to grab their first Super Bowl win with their 4th appearance in 8 seasons, they once again fell short. They unquestionably had a great season, but they did what they had always done in their other Super Bowl appearances. they failed to score a single point during the first half. Our other team at number 6 is far less successful and quite the overall contrast, the 1999 Cincinnati Bengals. At 4-12 with the second worst point differential on the countdown, the Bengals allowed more points than anyone all season, including an in-state expansion team. But they still hit their expected win total, actually just surpassing it, giving them their luck score of 0.004. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. The Bengals were offered an absolute haul during the 1999 NFL Draft, but foolishly turned it down. Because, sure, they were just one player away after the absolute woeful state they had been in during their lost decade. Their 4 wins this season came against teams with a combined 14 wins between them, or just as many regular season wins as the Jacksonville Jaguars had that year. Now we're in the nitty-gritty. We have a 4-way tie for second place, which we will once again tackle chronologically. Here we have the 1977 New England Patriots. In the final season of the 14-game schedule, the Pats were in the midst of some winning seasons, going 9-5 this year. The AFC was tough though, so they missed the playoffs, staying with their 9 wins and just surpassing their expected win total, leaving their luck score at 0.002. New England was excellent the season before, making the playoffs and feeling hard done by the way they lost to the Raiders. They maintained a good deal of that momentum in 1977, going 5-1 outside the division, with that one loss coming on the road in overtime. Unfortunately for them, they went 4-4 within the division, including one loss each to the atrocious Bills and Jets. This is the team on the countdown with the worst point differential, the 1986 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They also had the worst record at 2-14. Outside of the early days of the franchise, this is the worst of a lot of bad Tampa teams. They didn't even have much of a strength of schedule to lean on either, and those 2 wins officially represent an overachievement of their expected total, where their luck score also sits at 0.002. We never did say that point differential out loud, did we? Negative 234. Ouch. These were the Culverhouse Buccaneers that could make a first ballot, no-brainer Hall of Famer like Steve Young look like garbage. Then there's the Bo Jackson situation. They screwed him out of his college eligibility. They could have landed a trade package that included Ronnie freaking Lott, then drafted him first overall anyway after he said he'd never play for them. And he never did. What a damn mess. The Tennessee Titans make their 3rd appearance on the list, and these are all actual Titans teams, not the Oilers. They do so here with the 2001 team. This season was a drop-off following 2 stellar seasons, going 7-9 with a negative 42 point differential. The defense was the main culprit here, but all told, this team played up to its expectation, ever so slightly surpassing it actually. They joined the horde of teams with a luck score of 0.002. Those 2 stellar seasons saw the Titans go 13-3 both times, with a Super Bowl appearance included. They started this season with 3 losses, and were at the 4-loss mark by their 6th game. They kept up the fight though, avoiding consecutive losses while climbing back to 7-7, before then ending the season with consecutive losses, both at home to the sub-500 Browns and Bengals. Now for the last of our teams tied at number 2, fittingly the 2022 Denver Broncos. 7 seasons removed from their win in the Super Bowl and their most recent playoff appearance, Denver was bad again this season, going 5-12 and finishing dead last in scoring. Their points allowed don't show it, but they were the number 7 defense in the league by yards allowed, pushing that expected win total right near their actual win total, our 4th team with a positive 0.002 luck score. Another team that was willing to sell the farm thinking they were just one player away. Some NFL teams will simply never learn. Russell Wilson is a fine player, especially when he can be carried by a historically good defense. But we reiterate, Denver was last in the league in scoring this season. Their largest victory was by 9 points, and they didn't win a single game in the United States outside of Denver. We're down to number 1. The intrigue of who that team is has now been answered, and it's the perennially unlucky San Diego Chargers, this time from 1996. They did go 8-8 with suboptimal numbers across the board here, except for that number 1 ranked strength of schedule. Now, the other part of the intrigue is whether they perfectly matched their expected win total. After that rash of 0.002s, it's either going to be 1/1000th of a win away or right on the money. And the answer is... they just missed it. They won 8 games against an expected 7.999, giving them the tiniest of luck scores at 0.001. San Diego had been to the playoffs in 3 of the previous 4 seasons, notching at least a win in 2 of those postseason runs and making it to a Super Bowl. They had been in a slow but steady decline though. They did open up at 2-0, then 4-1. But like so many other teams before them, they suffered 2 separate 3-game losing streaks. Head coach Bobby Ross left after the season, and it would be another 8 years and a logo change before San Diego would see another winning record and playoff appearance. Yet, this 1996 squad is the closest thing we have to fully realizing the Bill Parcells corollary that you are indeed what your record says you are. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. Please take the time to like it and share it. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and ding the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future releases from the channel. Let me know what you think about all of this. It would have probably been quite difficult to predict who would make it onto this list, but were there any that came to mind beforehand? Was there maybe a team you were expecting to see but didn't? Are there any other specific ideas you'd like to see us tackle regarding the topic of luck? Sound off on this or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us today. And until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.